that I've been hearing as of late. We started live streaming. We moved away from National Federation Network, and we started TAPPS TV. And Blue Frame Technologies is our platform, and production truck is what it all comes through. And we try to make ourselves look as good as we can on the field, and production truck has done that. We also have a change. And it's not going to be a change from what I understand. We are partnered with Crossover for video, storage, editing, exchange, and they have now joined the Huddle family, I think is the way we're doing it, and now we're bringing a lot of power and might under one name with Huddle Crossover, and we're going to be continuing, at least for this year, our program that we have with Crossover within the Huddle, how would we say, framework, as we move forward. And ecosystem. I'm learning the terminology of what we're having, and so it's something that's very at the front of our minds because it's a technology that we use. Also, we have PlaySite that is here, and John's going to be introducing everybody. We're talking about unmanned cameras that you can bring and lease at your schools. That'll come to life, I'm assuming, and film, where you're not needing the people and the personnel to do that. Also, Local Live is here. The same thing, where they're directing them from remotely for you. You can control the cameras on site or from across the country if you need to. And we learned about Uber cameraman. So they're going to talk a little bit about that. So each individual up here will have a chance to talk about their company and what they're doing. And Mr. John Skis, who for many years has been at Nolan Catholic High School and taught photography, broadcast, journalism, and serves on the board. What's the board's name? The Association. Yeah, he'll tell him. The Association of Photography. I got so many letters going through my head this week I can't even see straight. So anyway, I'm going to hand it over to John. John can do the introductions, and he'll get you started. And again, there'll be a time at the end where we want to hear your questions. And like I said, this is the time to ask. All right, John.
Good morning. I want to apologize for our technical delays that we had earlier. But anyway, the reason that I'm up here is because I kind of got thrown into broadcast back in the day. I was a social studies and technology staff member at Nolan Catholic when we were involved in upgrading our stadium facilities. We built a press box that came with a Daktronics video board like the ones that you see on either side. And Steve probably is going to be mad at me for telling the story. I went to see the press box while it was still being built, and the Daktronics guys were there, and they were looking around, and I was there with the other technology staff member because we were going to run Ethernet to the building so that they could have internet. And the guy said, well, we can talk about how we're setting this up, but I really should talk about who's going to run it. And Steve turned around and said, that guy, and pointed right at me, which was news to me. But it was a lot of fun. We ran a video program in our arena and in our football field. We live broadcast all our home football games, home girls soccer games. We live broadcast a couple of other special events, some community mass events that were held on the football field. It was a mix of student and faculty involvement. So I learned how the system worked, and then I trained my students. It was all run on volunteers, which by the time I left, it was actually mostly girls for some reason. So I had camera operators on the field. I had camera operators in the press box. We had a director. We had a live broadcast person. We had scoreboard people. We kind of ran the whole thing, and it was very interesting. It was good for them, and I had students that left our program and got hired right away by TCU's broadcast people. So he was working on Frogs football games as soon as he left his freshman year at TCU. So it's training in real world stuff that we're working on. But I'll introduce our panel right now. We've got Matt Brown, who's from PlaySite Interactive USA. If you could, I don't know everybody's faces. That's you. We've got Mark Robinson, who's at Huddle and Crossover Video. We've got Mark Krug, who's from Blue Frame Technology, and Nelson Santos, who's from Local Live Networks. These days, I work as a photographer, and I help TAPPS, so I'm one of their video producers, so I work a lot with Blue Frame and run some of their football or some of their other live events. But I'd like to start by letting these guys introduce their companies and the kind of programs that they can offer you. So I guess we'll start down here. Mark Robinson,
excited to be in Texas. You guys, I'd love to talk more with you individually about how Blueprint Solutions can be a good fit for you guys.
Matt Brown with PlaySite. Oh, there we go. We work across 25 plus different sports currently. So we're a system of pre-installed multi-angle cameras in a gym, on a field, a baseball field, softball field, tennis, kind of any and every sport. We actually have underwater cameras as well. So if there's any swimming needs in here as well. We're a broadcast partner. We can be a training and development tool. Some of the AI and back-end analytics that we are developing and that we currently have developed are also available for training purposes. To give you an idea of the footprint, we work with 10 NBA teams currently, so we're installed across their practice facilities. The Toronto Raptors and Golden State Warriors both use us. They're apparently in the NBA Finals, from what I hear. And we also have some pretty high-level Major League Baseball partners and football partners as well. So excited for the opportunity. We partnered with the NEPSAC out east in a pretty heavy way, and this is kind of our first foray into the state of Texas with some of the bigger high schools down here as well. So.
Hi, I'm Nelson Santos. I'm the founder and CEO of Local Live Networks. We provide a full-service video broadcasting platform. Our idea is around broadcast first, and really to create a product that takes as much hands off of the school having to handle the broadcast and really have a broadcast partner. So we've developed our own internal cameras that are 4G powered, so you don't need to run a lot of Ethernet and everything like that to your fields. And then we created an Uber model where college and high school students from around the country that are passionate about sports, whenever you have a game, will remotely control that camera and provide a videographer experience that's superior for all your viewers. And then on top of that, we also handle all your customer support. We handle the streaming, the broadcasting, monitoring your schedules, rain delays, everything like that. So you can have a full broadcast platform with as little work as possible, including sponsorships and everything like that. We've been in business since March of 2017, and we now work with over 71 schools across the country. This is our kind of first foray into TAPPS. We work with All Saints in Tyler, and I'm really proud to have them on board. They were our first Texas school, and we're hoping to help more and more schools share content and connect with their parents, alumni, and constituents.
Okay, before we open it up to questions, because I know I'm not sure where everybody is in the room as far as the kind of platform that they want to deploy on their campus. From my background, from Nolan's perspective, our problem, we wanted a student-centered model, so we wanted students running as much as possible, but our problem, especially with a smaller school and a shrinking population, we didn't always have the kids that could do it. So there were nights that we had full crews of students, and then there were nights that it was just me. So the automated cameras seem to help with that. How many of you in this room want students involved or want multiple staff involved? I'm just curious. Okay, from a back, so we have a few there. How many of you are looking for a more hands-off platform, more plug-and-play kind of a go thing? Okay. I'd like to ask the panel, like, why they think why it's important to get the message out in this way. Like, what benefits other than just it looks cool do we get to our campuses from this kind of broadcast? Because our students can go and see the games, but like, what do we get by broadcasting? What is that?
I'll take that. I think it's just an expectation now for the student athlete experience and the ability for fan engagement and decent excitement around the program. Our production software allows you to, during the broadcast, clip highlights of a great touchdown play, a dunk, a home run by
one of the experience that we have and the benefits that our schools get from the volume of content that we do is kind of three things. First is exposure and admissions. More and more schools are competing for students, especially in the private and parochial schools. So this allows you to stand out as, you know, every game is broadcast. Kids can see your football field. They can see the facilities that you have, and therefore that attracts new students. Development people use this a lot because they can engage with their alumni. They can engage with and encourage donations. You know, putting a live broadcast out there creates this feeling of reciprocity, where you have an alumni who says, wow, I'm getting all these games for free. Maybe I should donate to the annual fund or to the next capital campaign. It allows schools to advertise their capital campaigns. And the biggest benefit that a lot of our schools are getting are especially in the young alumni demographic. So you're talking about seniors who are entering college. They're going to go to college for 4 years, and then when they graduate for that college for 4 years, the first thing that happens is their college is going to hit them up for their annual fund. And maybe they've at that point met their spouse. Maybe they've at that point, you know, remember all their college parties and the professors that shaped their lives that got their first internship. And now their high school is competing against their college. This allows, you know, being able to broadcast all those games. When that kid is a freshman in college, he still knows a lot of the kids that are on the team. When that kid is a sophomore, then a junior, then a senior. As those kids cycle out, it allows him to keep that connection with his high school. So now when they graduate their college, they're still connected to their high school. You don't have to go hunt that alumni back.
To kind of piggyback on that, so we all kind of provide a suite of tools to take a little bit of the work that is needed to have student managers perhaps run video. And we all know that the quality that happens isn't the best at all times. They get distracted pretty easily. They might not be zooming in correctly. So the ability to have some auto tracking technology on a basketball court or on a field is a pretty paramount and important thing for production quality. On top of that, also having the same suite of tools available with the touch of a button through an app to record and use instant replay in practice. As we all know, kids are pretty visual learners, so if you can have an app-based system where you can use instant replay to provide better teaching tools across any and all sports, I think we have up on this stage a bunch of options that can help with that as well.
I know we got started late, so I want to open it up to your questions as much as possible, but I'll start with a couple of questions that I would have if I was back in my high school and I was trying to decide which platform to go with. How is the content made available after the fact? So we've just done a homecoming game. How do I get the video? Can I get the video from you? Like what formats do I get? What just if I wanted to say cut something for a promotional piece on my own. Like,
well, if you broadcast with the Blueprint platform, there's basically two different stream rates that you can go with. But you decide to go with 720 resolution or 1080. And that game or broadcast is sent out through our system. A copy of it is always available to the admin account. So you always have that. If you want to make that available to the public on the media player that we provide, that is available. You can control whether or not you want to have that pay-per-view, pay-to-view, pay to download. There's a lot of different options there. The integration that we have with Crossover makes it important to cutting down on coaches' time and his workload. If that game originates in Blueprint, you have an account with Crossover, that game will be immediately shared into your account in Crossover. You need to upload the game later to your Crossover account. So really, I've heard some coaches that takes them about 3 hours after one game, but they're not sitting in their office with the So we're looking for very innovative ways to improve and easy to broadcast.
So in our system, we handle everything for you. So we'll test the cameras. We make sure that if we're watching a field hockey game or a football game that we've got the correct teams and everything like that. And then we monitor the event, and then we bring it down. Once it goes on demand, coach has an option to password protect it to make sure that no scouting or anything like that happens. So they have whatever amount of security that they want on it. And you own the content. The school owns the content, so they can download it at any time. And also, while we're filming the game live, our operators are tagging scores, and they're tagging anything that looks cool. If a kid does a 76-yard return or something like that, even though it's not a scoring play, we're tagging highlights for home and the away teams as the event happens. So at the end of the event, you could download our app, which allows you to pull the entire file in MP4 format, or you can just jump to all the highlights that have been identified, which will be all the goals, and either create a highlight reel and post that to social media, or just download all the highlights, or add yours additionally. And that's all yours to download and use as you please.
In ours, we can push a live stream through Blueframe if we need to. We can host it on PlaySite's own content management system. We can give false links out to schools. They can build their own live streaming page. That way you guys get eyeballs on your own school site and kind of get some of the benefits of that. The same suite of tools for cutting up highlights exists natively within PlaySite. So if a cool dunk happens, a home run happens, you can actually grab that clip in real time, share it to any marketing channel that you might need within PlaySite system. Kind of some of the same things that you guys touched upon. But the content rights, assuming why TAPPS moved away from NFHS, is we don't own the video rights. We don't want to own the video rights. We want to help our schools that we partner with do what they can with the video rights, make money off of it, and then connect and direct with their constituency.
The last question, the last issue that I'm going to bring up from my experience before I open it to everybody else has to do with monetization, because that's something that my AD and my advancement staff were always asking me about, and I think we can. So let's start with monetizing viewing. So pay to view or pay pay-per-view. If we could go over that real quick, and then I want to talk about commercials and other ads that we can run our own content in. So pay-per-view first. How does that work? Everybody does that?
Yeah, on the Blueprint system, we have a very innovative, robust, flexible paywall system that is up to the client on how you want to do that. If you want to make everything free, that's fine. If you want to do pay-per-view or just select events, let's say you have a big baseball tournament each year that you want to do pay-per-view for that only, you can set it up for just that, those set of events. If you want to set up a football season pass, where you can pay $30 and you get to watch all the football games, you can certainly do it by sport, or just do a full, all sport, full access pass. You can set that too. We also are dabbling into like a subscription-based model, where a fan or community members would pay $20 a month, and they would get access to everything behind the paywall that you guys decide on that you want to put on. So we're pretty flexible. Our system can work a lot of different ways, and it's because of the type of clients that we have. We serve, like I said, from high school all the way up to the 15 age 1. So the need between those sets of clients is vastly different. So we have to make our system and especially the paywall system to be very flexible.
So we have a flexible paywall as well. We have you can do subscription, you can do it on a per event basis. However, it's not very used a lot in the high school space. When we've met, we initially built it, we were thinking around that, same concept of, schools want to monetize this by pay to watch and everything like that. And then as we started meeting with a lot of advancement directors and development directors, what they said is, well, we don't want that. We don't want $5 from a parent. we want $500 from a parent. But when we put that content out there and you put it behind a paywall, a parent, a grandparent who pays that $5 feels that they've paid their obligation to the school. And advancement directors have said that parent could be worth a $10,000 donation, but now they feel satisfied giving you $5 towards this. So what we found is that the ability's there. Not a lot of schools take advantage of it because they feel that, to quote one of them, they're leaving money on the table, connecting with their alumni and everything like that. So we have it. We don't use it a lot.
Ditto. We have paywall options as well. Most of our high school partners that we work with, what we've seen as the best model is leaving it up to them to use video as a way to connect with alumni, fans, recruiters that might be around as well. So for the most part, most high school sports that we stream, we don't see them being put behind a paywall. The option exists if you want to, but when someone downloads or watches a game on PlaySight's platform or through your own website, they'll get each camera angle that we've installed. So most gyms have a 3-camera install. We've done upwards of 7 cameras in a gym as well. So as you're viewing a game, you can actually switch camera angles as a viewer on the back end. So something cool happens on one back end of the court. Instead of viewing it from the broadcast camera, which is tracking the action automatically, you can switch to a half-court view to see that dunk from different replays if you want to.
That is cool. I've wanted to do that in football games for a long time. We didn't charge much either. We found that we experimented with it in basketball, but we saw that viewership dropped off dramatically. In fact, for a while, this is when we were with a different broadcast program, the only 2 subscribers we had were one parent who traveled a lot for business and one parent for my color commentator because she wanted to hear her son commentate the games. And that was the only, so we were doing a lot of work for just 2 viewers. So we stayed away as much as possible from that. Now, our coaches wanted some kind of barrier because they didn't want scouting and some other things. But as far as, what about monetization from like running commercials? So we made, I know for our video boards, our Daktronics boards, we would shoot an ad for a car company or one of our other sponsors, and we would play those during the game and on the live broadcasts. What options do you guys have as far as putting that kind of content in to your broadcast? That monetization option.
So we do that all the time. We have a lot of schools whose booster clubs will just send us decks. They'll do real estate, cars, anything like that, and it's been extraordinarily successful. We'll run 15-second spots during timeouts because someone is watching the game. So because someone is watching the game, they see a timeout, they see an injury, they click run the 15-second, they'll run a 15-second spot. They'll run longer spots over halftime, do bottom corner bugs, anything like that. And we've seen a lot of schools very successfully actually turn their broadcast program profitable. We've seen schools make as high as $40,000 to $50,000 in advertising on a given season.
Yeah, the customization, we can do pre-roll ad rolls for them as well. Another avenue I'd say for monetization is ancillary events that are hosted on your courts or fields. So if you're a high school that hosts camps, clinics, things of that nature, and you have a system that one of us has installed, upselling those parents before a camp, letting them know, hey, they're going to be on site for the next 2 to 3 days for $20 during the registration fee. You can actually get video of that camp or clinic. The next year they can buy the video as well, and then they can have a comparison between the 2. So there's different ways outside of just the sponsorship way that we can help monetize the content that's being generated on those courts or fields that PlaySight's installed.
With Blueprint, we're pretty excited. We did our launching this fall a new solution for production software. So currently, we already provide the ability for you to have a pre-roll ad play before everybody watches your broadcast. We tap into third-party ad markets, so that people do with that ad, and that can obviously money in your pocket. But during the game, if you're running production truck, a lot of you have some local partners and sponsors like that you can upload the clip into and play, and you keep 100% of that revenue. But for most high schools, most small colleges, their full ad inventory that they could play is just not sold. If you think about a 7-inning baseball game, you have a break every half inning, that's not completely sold out. We now, through production truck, can tap into third-party ad markets by clicking a button in the production truck, it'll go fetch an ad for one of those services, whether it be Applebee's, State Farm, something like that. give to a company that's here is E-Team Sponsor. That's a crowdfunding or team fundraising. We can even put the campaigns that if you're using them, we can help create a commercial for within production trucks that we can put through to the donation campaign that they set up for your team. So you take about 30% of your fans probably watching on a mobile device. They see that ad come up, and hey, help our baseball program, help our softball program, and they can actually click through on that video to the direct donation page for that campaign. So there's a lot of, I think, innovative things that are coming down the road for us just this year. But I'm pretty excited about where that goes in the next 2-3 years from now. That could be a real game changer for the company.
That brings up another question right before I open it to everybody else. What about analytics? What kind of viewership analytics, and how detailed can that be? So if I put up a football broadcast and I want to know how many people watched it, can you tell me numbers? Can you tell me like you said, devices? Can you tell me how long they watched? Like what kind of analytics can you provide?
So we can provide number of viewers live, what devices, what country they were from, what state they were from, how long they watched, what their average engagement was. And what a lot of schools do is they require registration. So there's no fee or anything like that, but you have to put in your name and your email address to create an account before you log in. And if the school chooses to execute that, we can give them lists of who watched, what their email address is, and then at the end of the year, give you a list of here's everyone that ever watched any one of your games for development purposes.
And we can provide back-end, how long a viewer, unique visitors, the amount of unique click-throughs as well, how long they spent on there. The new dashboard we just released 2 weeks ago, I want to say, and it's got a more robust live streaming kind of data analytics for you guys to digest on the back end.
Yeah, very similar live all time as far as the unique views, total number of plays, what device they were on, if they were watching on a native app. What we see is that on average, when it comes to the sport broadcast that our clients, the average viewer is watching for over 40 minutes. So if you think about the engagement that you have with that audience, they have a direct connection to obviously an athlete or to your school. So it makes a lot of sense for any type of fundraising activity that you guys may be doing on campus, that message gets in front of those people when they're most connected and most engaged with the student athletes.
All right. If there aren't any other comments that the panel members want to make, anything else they want to mention, I'll open it up to questions. Yes, sir.
Talking about your number of volunteer students and what are
Maybe we can start with Blue Frame on that one as far as.
Well,
your members, one principal director?
sure. I would say that that would maybe depend on exactly what your goal is as a program. But from a simple perspective, one camera setup, if you're going to have a play-by-play announcer, obviously that's another body. But if you want that camera man, you've got one person there. And then from our experience, we train whoever you feel needs to be trained on our production software, and we can get them going to be able to do a broadcast on their own, running the production software. So from that perspective, if you have play-by-play, have one guy running production truck, and then one camera person, you're going to put together a really good broadcast.
I can say from experience, the production truck interface is very similar to a TriCaster, which is what we had installed. The TriCaster is kind of like an industry television production thing, which is great for the kids to learn on, but it's incredibly expensive. And portable TriCasters are even more expensive, so doing away games. So production truck that you can run off of a laptop with a few ancillary pieces of equipment, it's a lot easier to get multiple platforms running and to train students on a similar platform. So it's a great learning experience, but it's also cheaper and more portable. That makes sense. So a typical night, we'll show up about 4 o'clock, 4:30 if the game starts at 7:30. And that's mainly, sometimes we have a lot of downtime, but that's mainly to make sure that everything is working. Because you don't want a camera to go out or a battery to not be charged or a cable to be bad, and then try to fix that during the national anthem. You don't want that. So for a full crew for me, I will have one camera on the field, and we had cable hookups. We didn't have wireless. And I had 2 students down there, 1 camera operator and 1 grip. Grip was in charge of the cable, and they would swap at the quarter. Up on the press box, I had 1 student on an external camera that's on a tripod, so that they were my wide shot and he was my detail. I had 1 student operating instant replay, which is something else we can talk about on a different piece of hardware. 1 student on, or it was me, in the director's chair, and that person was in communication with all the camera operators in the instant replay. And then they would decide, so say your ground camera would know when they were going to be live, because you don't want to switch to somebody and have them filming their feet or looking at their girlfriend or something, and that go, or doing something inappropriate. You don't want that. So that person, and the same thing in production truck, you can sit there and see what all the cameras are, and then decide which one is live, whether that's camera 1, camera 2, or an ad or a graphic. That's all the same thing. And then we would have another student on. We had a separate laptop that handled the live stream, because we had to run parallel production. So what I'm talking about is not necessarily what these guys are talking about, because we had to handle a video board on set, and so we had our show for our house, and then we had the broadcast. So we had a couple extra people, and I had somebody just dedicated to the broadcast part. So they would update the scores, the quarter, the clock on the part that went over the over the internet. And I might have students, extra students, and they'd switch at quarters or change position at quarters. Training we would do during practices. So I would make everybody show up while football was having practice, or soccer or whoever else, just so they would get a sense of how to move the cameras, how to focus, and I would make them watch football games for homework. And the only difference, the idea with our program is the only difference between us and Cowboy Stadium is they have more stuff, but it's not different. It's as close to them as we can get as far as the experience. They just have more TriCasters, more cameras, more radios, more stuff. And I wasn't allowed to make it part of my class because it was an extracurricular. So I couldn't say, if you don't show up to a football game, I'll give you 0. They wouldn't let me do that. I wanted to. They would let me give them community service hours for it. So our school had a CM hour program. So I could give them hours for that, and that helped a lot because the kids would get something out of it. And with high school kids, especially with seniors, like they want to be in the fan section, they want to be with their friends. So to give them something tangible that they can get, maybe it's a court at graduation or a special page in the yearbook. We did a bunch of stuff to try to incentivize them to come in. There's one other thing. A friend of mine who works at public school, he's allowed to pay his kids. So he's at Allen High School, and he has a crew, and his kids are district employees. So they get paid for the games that they work, and they run all the other extra games that they've got. And I tried to get my campus to let me do that, and they said no. But giving an incentive to your student helpers is the best thing that you can do to get them to keep showing up. No, I just had the one. And they would do, I maybe had enough to kids would switch weeks. So like I had a kid who was my top one week, and she would switch with somebody else. But it was pretty small. And I had, the year I left, I had 6 girls and 1 freshman boy. And none of them, the weird thing was none of them really cared about sports. I had the freshman boy I had to, like, he was my instant replay operator first off, and I said, okay, hit this button when the snap. And he's like, what's that? He didn't know. So you attract kids. It's a great engagement tool. You can bring more kids into the community that don't necessarily care about the game, but they are interested in the technical aspect or the production at the show, putting on the show. A lot of my kids were theater kids. They liked it. So they enjoyed it. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
good thing, with the acquisition of software, we also had a relationship with Blueprint, which we're actively looking at right now and working through all the details that to make that possible for a long-term partnership. So there's a lot of things that can happen. Currently, we don't. So we're happy with this acquisition and the partnership with software and Blueprint is well understood as a model. So now we're just looking at how to redo it and expand it even more.
And in terms of whether it's compatibility, we do have a lot of schools that bring their own production truck, and what they do is they'll use our system for the everyday games, and then Friday Night Lights or the game of the week, they produce with their own truck, with their own crew, and everything like that. So we don't entirely rely on our cameras. So there are ways to integrate it, and that would be something I'd love to explore with Playside as well as Huddle and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of automated solutions out there. Obviously, Focus and what Playside does is very on the leading cusp of that. At Blueprint, we are open and willing to work with anybody to be able to bring in any type of camera solution into production truck. There's a variety of technology out there that will open that up. Some are more willing to work with us than others. At least from my vantage point, I know Huddle has been open, Playside has been open. There's others out there that I won't mention that have closed that off. So that's kind of frustrating for us because we know that each school, each high school, each college is different and what their needs are. But if there's an automated solution out there that already is picking up that video feed, to be able to just bring that into production truck can make the client's life a lot easier and have that serve multiple purposes for the school that has them.
I could say from a teacher's perspective, the more cameras that we had, the better. Adding cameras always made me happy, whether it was automated or not. If I could get it into my mixer, I was happy that it was there. With something like a TriCaster or a Blue Frame, you can set static cameras. So when we did TAPPS baseball and softball, we had 4 cameras on baseball, and I sat in the booth and just selected between them because I didn't have camera operators. If I had camera operators, we would do it differently. But the thing about that is, if your AD comes and says we're renting the stadium for a soccer game or a football game that's not us on Friday or Saturday, you've got to have people for it. Automated, you can just push a button and walk away. But there were times where it was incredible. There was a lot of stress on the person involved. It was me to get a crew available for X football game that we have on a Saturday, and all my kids are out of town because it's Christmas or something. So there are definite drawback, pluses and minuses to each system, I would say.
And there is a definite push, I'd say, from top down, from professional level leagues and top level leagues for more of an automated system, just because of a lot of the hurdles that exist currently within having to man cameras and having to control your own broadcast and everything else. So the USA Baseball, for example, we're installing 6 cameras on their baseball field, and they're using it for training and development purposes and for games and broadcast purposes as well. So the ability when you have multiple angles gives you that broadcast level experience without having to have manned cameras all over the place as well.
I mean, and especially with man cameras, if the student screws up or doesn't care, my first year I had a student who I later found out only joined the program because his girlfriend made him, and it was 4th quarter of the football game, and he just sat down on the bench, and I'm yelling at him through the comms, being like, "You're not done. Like, there's stuff going on." He's like, "I don't want to. I will come down there and take the camera, but like, get up for now." So you have to have like any other activity. It can't be casual on the participant's part. Like there's an art to it, and there's skill involved, and there's a reason that camera operators. It's a lot of hard work, but you can be paid.
That's something we struggled early on when we were first, cultivating, because we Uber modeled it. So we have camera operators all over the country controlling cameras all over the country, and so what we found was, one is the most important thing isn't are they technically savvy. The most important thing is, do they love the sport? Do they have passion for it? Do they understand the rules of the game? And that automatically made them significantly better producers. They know that, it's 20 seconds left and they're down by 2 and they're up for 2 foul shots, and they know when to zoom in and they know everything like that because they feel the tension with that. And then creating that ecosystem, what it's allowed us to do is, we also have a rating system, just like Uber. So every single one of our game operators, cuts their teeth on 10 JV games. Once they get past their 10 JV games, well, then now they're allowed to do varsity. And every single game they get rated on a 5-star system. You fall below 3 stars, you're out. You will never do a game again. The great thing about the system is if, we're constantly monitoring, if we see someone isn't following the play, is concentrating more on the cheerleaders and then on the game, we immediately dump them, they're out, and within 30 seconds, a new operator has taken over, and they're doing a great job. And, the great thing is since we pay these operators by the game, we've never come up with a shortage. There's always a lot of hungry college students looking to control games with an Xbox controller because it's their tool of choice.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
We have a mobile solution as well. So our bread and butter is installed courts and fields that you own and operate. But we also have mobile solutions that it's just basically a tripod with a camera that has a PTZ controller that you can control where the focus is, and then it can automatically upstream live to whatever provider that you want to, and then upload directly into a place like cloud. So what we've done with schools who've either been financially strapped to perhaps install a softball, baseball, and football field is get them a mobile unit they can share between all sports, and that can be passed for different events as they play on different courts and fields as well.
We also have a mobile unit that for the exact same reasons. We had a lot of schools that either travel, they wanted to do more away games, or they had fields that were just impossible to install anything like that. So we designed our mobile unit. It can go up between 7 feet or in some cases 26 feet high, so you can get a nice bird's eye view. It has 4G cellular capabilities built in, so it'll connect to wherever the nearest network is, and it has a battery pack, so even if you don't have power, you plug in the battery, the camera spins up, it contacts us, and then the remote operator takes control just like any other game. You bring it out. So usually someone will throw it in the back of the bus, and then it's about a 90-second setup.
I think that's like the beauty of the software provider. It meets both ends of the spectrum. For somebody that wants to do a 4-camera, really advanced broadcast and has that capability. For a lot of our clients that have very similar situations where they may have a few of their facilities on campus, baseball, softball, is local, a place that's 5 miles down the road, and they go out there and produce a 1-camera, 2-camera broadcast really well, because they can pack up production stuff, a laptop, a couple cameras, and other small pieces, and then they can go to that site and do it. As far as like streaming it out, you would need obviously a dedicated network, and there's some solutions out there that if the cell service, the hotspot service in that area is not great. There's some third-party solutions like LiveView that bonds cell signals together, give you a dedicated wireless signal for you to switch that out. But even if you got there and the cell service is not good, you can't get the stream out, you can always record with production stuff and then upload it to your account later, so that at least it will be on a on-demand basis, so that fans can watch it as soon as possible. You are able to.
We did a similar thing. That's what TAPPS has to do every time we live, because TAPPS has no facilities. So every time you see a TAPPS TV, it's because me and Will have hauled a bunch of cameras out of a truck and set them up and run a bunch of cables and done all kinds of stuff. So that's what we have to do. We started doing that at Nolan because we wanted to do a couple of away games, but also having a portable system, whatever it is, allows us. We started doing the fine arts concerts to do live stream, especially if they were during the day. So we would live stream those for the parents, and those were some of our most viewed things. Like the Christmas concert was our top viewed every year. And we didn't have permanent stuff in the gym, so we brought over the cameras and brought over a laptop and set all that up. And the broadcast kids got to get out of class to set up, so they were super happy. And then we also had that recording that we could then give to the teachers so they could grade their students. So it works for fine arts. Not so much for theater because they don't want you recording things, but robotics. We've live streamed robotic events. There were two, and I'm not in robotics, so I'm going to butcher it, but there's one with Legos and there's one with like a robotic team thing that lasts all day. We live streamed that. For those people, that's another high viewership thing. So the more portable something is, the more events you can cover for your campus, and the happier your administrators are. Any other questions? Nope. Well, we're about 3 minutes till 11:15, so we can wrap it up. I'd like to thank the panel for participating, and thank you for your patience. And you guys enjoy the rest of the convention.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Sorry for what you guys did.